Hello everyone and welcome back to Mr. Miller's Art Room. Sorry about the audio quality, but unfortunately I forgot my good microphone. However, we don't need good audio quality in order to take care of our next big project. For my second graders, we are going to do a crisscrossing patterns artwork utilizing different shapes coming off the sides of our big paper. We're going to allow those shapes to crisscross with each other and create borders.
Borders, Mr. Miller. Well, you can't cross borders, can you?
In our particular case, no, Mr. Monocle. We shouldn't be crossing the borders of our shapes. Now, when we did this patterns practice paper, I gave you a set of 6 different squares that you were to try to implement different kinds of patterns. There are many different kinds of patterns utilizing different kinds of lines and shapes and colors. I kept it simple between 2 and 3 different colors in order to create a pattern. For this next assignment, we want to do the same. We want to make sure that we utilize only 2 to 3 different pattern colors so that we don't overcomplicate it for ourselves. This artwork is going to be complicated enough so that we shouldn't have to worry about more than 3 colors. Everyone is going to be given a large 12 by 18 sheet of paper. This entire sheet of paper is going to be filled with your beautiful shapes and colorful patterns. We're going to start utilizing a pencil in order to sketch out our shapes.
Sketch, Mr. Miller. Do you mean drawing lightly?
That's correct. When we sketch, we don't press hard with the pencil. We want to make sure that we draw lightly enough so that we can erase the pencil marks after we utilize a Sharpie to make those lines solid. I'm going to start by utilizing some shapes. What's most important here is that, number 1, the shapes start very large. Number 2, the shapes start from the edges of the paper and go inward. Then, the shapes that crisscross with one another should be large enough in those areas that we can add colors and patterns. I'm going to start with a couple of shapes. You can draw 1 or 2 in the middle, but don't get obsessed with trying to draw all your shapes into the center of the page. A lot of them should start from the outside in. Over in the right-hand corner, maybe I'm going to do a semicircle. The lower right-hand corner, I'm going to start with a really big triangle. Over here in the upper quadrant, maybe I'll do a rectangle coming down like so. It doesn't need to be a perfect rectangle. You can see there's a little bend, but that's okay. Then on the lower left-hand quadrant, what I'm going to do is do sort of curve, spike like this.
Mr. Miller, you only drew 4 shapes altogether, but there seems to be a lot of different kinds of shapes on the paper.
Yes, well, that's why we do the crisscrossing shapes. You see, I only drew 4 large shapes coming from the outside going inward, but where the shapes crisscross creates different kinds of shapes where the lines cross each other. So, for instance, I can use my pencil to point out, we have this big shape right here, but what we're going to do is put a different pattern inside of each of these lines. These lines have to act like a border wall. You can't get through a wall, and if they're built properly, you can't climb over a wall. The walls are there to keep things in or out. In this particular case, the lines are going to be the borders for our various different kinds of patterns. But before we do our patterns, what we're going to need to do is utilize a Sharpie and actually Sharpie the lines that we created as close as we can. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And there you have it. We have our lined artwork. Now, some of you will notice, if I zoom in a little bit closer, you'll notice that there are some pencil lines that are still there. All those pencil lines are going to need to disappear. Everyone is going to get a large pink eraser. Now, we want to make sure this paper doesn't get wrinkled or crinkled. So the best way to erase these lines is to take one hand and hold the paper down below. Then take the other hand and you push the eraser away. In this way, the paper won't go anywhere, and as long as you're pushing, picking it up, putting it back, pushing, picking it up, and going in this rotation, you'll be able to erase all of your pencil lines and keep your paper from getting crinkled or wrinkled. So we're going to go ahead and finish this. One of my favorite materials to utilize for this are oil pastels. Not only do they have very rich colors, but they have very good coverage so that the colors lay on nice and thick and bright and brilliant. We can really make it so that there is almost no white of the paper left, and that's what we're looking for. The other thing is that we want to do a different pattern within each of these borders. Even though this rectangle comes all the way down here, we can't think of the rectangle as a shape by itself. This part of the rectangle is one shape. This part of the rectangle where it crosses the hook is a shape. This part of the rectangle is a shape. Even the stuff that we drew that wasn't a shape, but are the leftovers of a shape, are shapes as well. These are called negative shapes. Shapes that are created as a result of drawing other shapes. I'm going to start with these first two colors in this space, and I'm going to go from one shape to the next shape to the next shape until I'm done. I'm going to utilize different kinds of patterns that I can use I've created before, and that I can use my imagination to think up of some ones as we go along. To keep things simple at the start, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use orange and green to create horizontal line bars that stay inside this particular negative shape. I'm going to go from orange to yellow-green, back to orange, and I'm going to do that all the way down until it's done. Now that this is complete, I'm going to take these two colors, put them back in my oil pastel bin, and I'm going to choose 2 or 3 brand new colors that I didn't use before. So I'm going to choose pink this time, and I'm going to choose purple. I'm also going to choose a different kind of pattern this time. Instead of horizontal bars, maybe what I'm going to do next are vertical bars. Vertical lines, or bars in this particular case, are lines that go straight up and down like this. One kind of pattern allows me to create a pattern following the same actual shape as the shape that the pattern's in. I'll show you what I mean. As you can see here, the pattern actually follows the shape and goes in and in and in. Now I'm going to use blue or deep purple and green, and I'm going to set myself up for success. I drew these curved lines going into this one point. Then I drew other curved lines to create a sort of bent checker pattern. Then I colored every other checker with the same purple so that I left spaces in between. And with enough care and a little bit of time, you can get something like this done with a lot of intricacy. Yellow and blue triangles. This is the first one where I utilized 3 different colors, yellow, orange, and red. These curved lines match the wave that comes off of this particular curve. Try to make sure that every time you do a new pattern, it goes in a slightly different direction than the one that it's next to. Next one done. This next one is set up to resemble the scales of a fish. You can see here I went with these diagonal patterns, and this one I did sort of wavy pattern. And we're done. After a lot of experimentation and play, I was eventually able to finish this work. There's really only one shape here that utilizes 3 different colors, and that's this one. All the rest of them only use 2 color patterns, but look how rich and complex it looks. I hope you have a great time creating one of these works of art for yourself, and I want to see what everybody's results are. Thank you all very much, and for Mr. Monocle and I said good day.
We said good day.